We are good to go. We've got head coach Dave Rubio here. Sean, you're going to lead us off.
Hi, Coach. How are you doing?
Good, Sean. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. Very lovely office, by the way.
Pardon me?
Very lovely office that you
Oh,
have.
thanks.
So, first off, let's get into the match against ASU. So the first two sets were really good. I mean, especially that second set where at one point, I believe Arizona was up 23-9. It was dominant. Same thing with the first set, even though it went into extras, team did really well. So if you could just speak to those first two sets, what was it that you were seeing or what was it you were liking that led to such great success from the team?
Well, we're improving. In the last couple of weeks, I've seen some substantial improvement just in our ability to function once we're in a transition, And so uh, I think that we have a better concept of what we're trying to do. And so we're getting, for the most part, the execution off the dig to the set to the attack has been better. And so it's been a little smoother. We look a little more organized. And if we can, like I said before, if we can keep our swing percentage up to between 85 and 90%, we'll be in pretty good shape. Now, it hasn't been close to that lately. The heat index, which is Emery's setting and her location, and then the swing percentage, which is the overall setting, regardless of who sets, hasn't been up to the numbers where I'd want it to be. But we're scoring points. That's the other part of it. Each set, certainly the first set, I think we were up at 17 or 18 points. So I was pleased with that.
And then obviously to get to the sad side of it, where a little tear in my eye, not gonna lie, came down when I was watching. So the last three sets, it just looked like ASU just was owning every aspect of the game. So, and I guess you could just say then, like, my question for this is, like, what would you say happened? I mean, Arizona was rolling with those first two sets, and then the last three, it just completely, like, the whole game just changed. So from a coach's perspective, if you wouldn't mind letting me know, like, what would you feel just happened?
Sure. So I think it's you win the first game in a tight match, right? It was 28-26, I believe. And a young team like ASU is going to have a tough time rebounding emotionally from that game. So the second set was really a no contest because they were just trying to mostly recover. I told the team after set two, I said, look, they're going to come back and it's going to be a harder set. You guys need to understand that. The thing that I wasn't prepared for was that ASU, it was like they left the building, they put on another set of uniforms, and they came back a brand new team. I mean, that was essentially what happened, because they passed significantly better. Their serving was much better. Their setting and their attacking became significantly better. And it was ultimately, they became really just a completely different team. It's not that we completely rolled over and we became complacent. I don't think that was the case. I think that ASU truly started to play and took their game several different levels, and we just couldn't keep up. I mean, ultimately, we just couldn't keep up. They played much better than we did in the last three sets, and statistically speaking, even though statistically the numbers are better in our favor, but it was skewed because of the set one and set two. But my hat's off to Arizona State. I mean, they played significantly better. They had to go out and win that match, in which they did. And we didn't respond particularly well. Our passing started to break down. They served tougher. Their blocking became a significant factor, which in the first match that we played wasn't a factor, and certainly the first two sets of the second match wasn't a factor. But their physicality started to take over. And a lot of it because they were just being able to side out at will. I mean, their side out percentages were probably 75% or higher.
And then last question for you, Coach. One thing I've seen a lot, I know when the press talks a lot about the team, they talk about Sophia or they talk about Emery, but one player in particular that I've seen that's really impressed me over the course of the time has been Merla Levi. I mean, she's been really dominant. She looks like she's more comfortable out there. I'm just wondering if you could speak about her and how you've seen her personally emerge as a player on this team.
Well, sometimes just given an opportunity, players will emerge without having the opportunity to show what they can really do in practice. So she was been sitting behind China for throughout the season. China gets a concussion, and now Merla has the opportunity to come in and kind of show us in a real reality, in a live situation, what she can do. And because of Merla's work ethic and practice, she's put herself in a position to continue to get better. So what you see is more of a product of her day-to-day work ethic than it is from anything else. And then, of course, her opportunity to actually get a chance to play in an actual match and a full match rather than just spot playing, which is what she's done before. But she's always had such a great attitude, and her work ethic is in a class by itself. I mean, she never takes a play off, which allows us to be much better. The other person that's grown considerably and has really helped us this last weekend was Ziona Fellows, and her offense has really taken off as well. And so that's helped us quite a bit.
Kim, you're next.
So how is China, and what kind of decisions do you have about China and Merla now when China comes back?
Well, China's getting closer. I mean, every single week she's getting closer. And the one thing, having as much experience as I have and we have with concussions, there's just no way to accelerate the process before one's allowed to be back on the court. And right now, China would like to be there, and certainly we could use her when we start to play really physical teams like UCLA and ASU. Having China presence really helps us. But, China right now is getting closer, but isn't cleared to play. And I would say it would be a stretch for her to be cleared this weekend.
And about this weekend, you and Colorado have similar records, but they've have a win over UCLA. And what do you see from them? What are you expecting?
I haven't even thought about Colorado until Monday, and the thing that I can share with you is that they're older. They have they switched their offensive system from a 5-1 to a 6-2, which is kind of a strong departure from what they had been doing. And I think offensively that helps them. But they have 2 experienced setters. They have 2 really good lefts. They have 2 really good opposites. They have a really good libero and a really good middle, and the other middle is young and developing. So I think we have our hands full this weekend. I mean, I say that every single weekend because we're playing in the conference, but they're young, they're older, they're experienced, they have talent, and they're well coached. So it's kind of the deck is stacked against us this weekend. Right? We're going to have to really play well to keep up with these guys.
PJ, go ahead.
Okay. Hi, Dave.
Hi, PJ.
So where would you sort of, if you were to evaluate your team where they stand right now, where do you think you are at this moment of the season?
Well, I evaluated in regards to our ability to how much improvement we've made from the beginning of the season, and it's been pretty substantial, especially the last couple of weeks. So the thing that's holding us back is really, at this point, is our inability to be consistent in serve receive, and then our setting needs to be better, and the location of the set needs to be a little more consistent. If we can get those things kind of where they need to be, then we're going to be, from a win-loss record, probably in a better place than we are right now. We're close. We're competitive. We're doing a lot of things. Individually, we're making some good strides. But I think that, certain things weigh and are more important, setting being maybe one of the most important parts of our ability to have any kind of offense. And so right now, I think that those areas, our swing percentage needs to be, in that match against ASU, our average swing percentage was below 70%. And you're just not going to beat a good team with 70% of the swings being good sets. So we got to be better there. I mean, that's kind of been my focus for the last couple of weeks.
And who would you say, is there someone who's really surprised you in their performance and how quickly they've stepped up or something like that? I know that we've talked about, with Sophia, you didn't expect her to come on so strong so quickly, but is there someone else that sort of that you've been pleasantly surprised with?
Well, the person who's made the most significant strides in my mind, there's two people, I think Merla and Ziona. I mean, Ziona, she's playing the M1 position, which means that she's next to the setter, 2 of the 3 rotations when she's front row, which means she's making an approach behind the setter, what we call a slide. And so we've been able to set the middles more. And so the last 2 matches, we were up from 30% to 32% of our total sets were in the middle, where before then it was 20 to 25%. So those are substantial numbers that we're setting the ball more to those positions. And that really helps out overall. So we're not as predictable offensively. And so that has been, and the only reason we've been able to do that because we've had a lot of success with Ziona hitting the slide and Merla staying in front of the setter. So those things, hopefully that trend continues. But I've been really happy with the development of the middles, both of them, in absence of China. And so, that's the unfortunate part of China being hurt, is that she's not with those 2 learning and growing as those 2 are and have been.
Sean, go ahead.
Hey, Coach. So I know we've talked about this before in the past, but one of the things I noticed a lot in the ASU match was serving errors again. And I know people have asked you about it a lot. So I just wanted to ask a first question on it. What do you feel happens to your team personally coming out of a timeout from your opponent's timeout that at most times, unfortunately, is almost like a gimme that your team will either hit it into the net or commit a serving error? Is there something mentally to that, or what do you see as a coach?
Serving is a lot like free throws. It's like, it's such an easy play. You're a great 3-point shooter and you can't hit a free throw, and it's kind of the same thing with serving. And the ASU match was a little bit different than our normal trend, which is missing serves out of timeouts. We did that in the ASU match as well, but we missed a lot more serves in that first set, especially. I think that was the thing about the first set. We were fortunate to win the first set because we missed 7 serves, got ace 3 times. So we gave them, we made 10 unforced errors and a gain to 25. That's hard to recover from. But the age, I knew that we were going to struggle. It's kind of one of the instinctual things that I saw us when we were practicing up there. I told Anne-Marie Anderson, I said, we're going to struggle serving today. And, whether it's a self-fulfilling prophecy or not, holy smokes, I'm sure on the telecast, and I haven't watched it, she's like, Dave Rubio told me that they were struggling, and here they are missing 7 serves in the first set, So sometimes it just is kind of unexplainable, and so I don't know why that is. We certainly talk about it. Some of it's, I think, is a youth issue. We were really a very good serving team, except when they call a timeout. And if I was opposing coach, I'd always, if I want to stop the run, I'm going to call a timeout, and then we'll side out because we miss a serve. I hope that trend, we can stop that trend. And but right now, we talk about it, and until we can start to execute better at those particular times, it's awfully frustrating.
And then last question for you, Coach. So for me personally, and then also as a better understanding just in general for those that watch volleyball, as a coach, when your team is serving, are there some times where you designate a play, meaning you called out where you want your players to serve, or is it more or less most of the time your players are allowed to serve on the other side of the court wherever they want?
That's a good question. And I think that's what there's a lot of different types of serves, so the court's broken up into 6 different zones, and so if you're starting at zone 1, which is, right back, and then you go counterclockwise. So zone 2 would be stepping forward, and then you go counterclockwise. So we have, to be a good server, you got to serve with precision and be very accurate. And then you got to kind of serve with a certain speed. So we have the speed gun when we're in practice. So we want to serve at least at 37 miles per hour or plus, you know, and then trying to change the depths and the serve it short or serve it long. So oftentimes what you'll see is the balls that are missing long are balls that are, we call the whiteboard serve. And that is in practice, we put a whiteboard and they got to serve the ball over the whiteboard into the deep corners, our zone 5 and 6 or zone 6 and 1. So there's always strategy with that. And oftentimes you'll hear coaches talk about winning the serve and pass battle. And so trying to get them so that they're passing under a 2.0 and we're passing at a 2.4 or higher rate. And so a perfect pass would be a 3 pass, meaning you have all 3 options to set. A 2 pass is pass further off the net and you only have 2 options to set. A 1 pass would be you only have 1 option, 1 person you can set, and then a 0 would be you get aced. So you add up all those numbers and the total attempts, and then you get a certain percentage. And our goal is to be above a 2.4. And you try to keep your teams under a 2.0. And for the most part, we were doing that. So for example, in the first 2 sets against ASU, they were well under a 2.0. Okay. In the 3rd set, they were a 2.23. All right. So their passing got substantially better, you know, as the match wore on, where ours became substantially worse. We were under a 2.0 in the next 3 sets.
Ryan, go ahead.
What have you thought about Emery's progression? And she was talking earlier how dumping was like something that was pretty new to her. So kind of along those lines from a technical standpoint, like are there certain cues that she's reading with that, and how do you think she's done with that so far?
You know, the weight of the world is on Emery's shoulders, and then I can kind of feel that. I felt like in the games 2, 3, and 3, 4, and 5, she started to get a little down on herself, and you know, I try to minimize the pressure that I put on her. And in setting, you know, there's 2 aspects of setting: the decision making and then the location. And the location of set being the most important part of the setting. The decision making, you know, as you get in the upper levels, the decision making becomes as important as the location. But for a young setter, the location becomes really the most important thing she needs to focus on. And so that's the heat index that we talk about. So I evaluate every single set and decide whether or not that set is in a position where a hitter can take a full approach and a scoring type of swing. All right. If she does, then she gets a plus. If she doesn't, she gets a minus. And so ideally, you want her rate to be at 85% to 90% on the plus side. All right. So we as a team have been, like I was sharing before, below 70%. Emery as well has been below 70%. So, but that's not everything that she has to do. She's got to serve. She's a terrific server. She plays really good defense, which setters notoriously have been our poor at defense. And she's got to be a really good solid blocker, which she is. So the thing that she's behind a little bit is on the setting. And so that tends to wear on you because so much of the weight of the team and the success of the team on that particular play is based on the kind of set that she can give her attackers. So, and then on top of that, like I said, when she's front row, she's got to be creative and also include her ability to be offensive, which is dumping. And so there's like I said, I think last week, it's like you go from arithmetic all the way to physics when you go from 3-hitter set to the 2-hitter set when she's front row. And it just takes time to be able to understand those dynamics and develop the instincts for it. So I like where Emery's at. I think that she's putting herself, if you would ask her, she's kind of wearing under the pressure of everything that goes with that position. But like I told her, the only way out is through. I mean, the only way she's going to get to the next stage in her development is to get through this. And there's going to be some rough nights that go along with it. I thought the ASU match was a rough match for her, but that's part of the development and part of the process that she has to go through.
PJ?
Yeah, what does this week sort of look like for you? What's your message to the team, especially, you know, coming off that tough loss at ASU when you know, when you had things going and you said, watch out, they're going to come for us. And then you had a hard time sort of responding to that. How do you sort of take that and then go into this week and get prepared for Colorado?
You know, that's a good question, PJ. You know, I sent that same message. You know, we beat ASU here in a, you know, it wasn't as competitive a match, I think, as ASU would want. And my message to them after, I said, look, don't think for a second that it'll be a completely different match come on Sunday, which it was. I mean, the problem was that we got lulled in a little bit of, you know, complacency because of how the first two sets went. And then, you know, give, you know, ASU all the credit for being able to turn that around, because they had lost 10 straight, right? They had lost 10 straight. And so their backs were against the wall. So in terms of our preparation, for me, I kind of planted the seed early in the season. I said, every week's a different week. I said, win or lose, I said, you got to focus on what the next week is what we need to see and what we need to prepare for. And I think that for us, that's been the message. It's like, regardless of what happened last week, there's some really good things that happened last week. We're certainly I really focus on the positive aspects of it. And when we watch film, we watch film of a one set, certainly every single week of the prior weekend's match, and talk about the things that we need to do better. But the problem is that you go from ASU to Colorado, and from Colorado, you know, you go to Cal, and then Cal to USC. So there's not much of a reprieve in terms of the level of competition. This weekend's going to be tough. But again, my whole approach this spring has been, we're just going to plan on trying to get as good as we can for the fall. The fall is really where I think for us is going to be kind of where we hit our stride. Trying to get these guys the next 4 weeks as good as we can and as far as we can in terms of their development has really been my primary focus.
Anything else for Coach Rubio? Okay, thanks, guys.
Thanks you guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you.